Whatever you want, sir. Whatever you want. You're Stan Lee.
Hello there.
How are you again?
You're the man who's going to save my life because I don't know what the hell to do. All right. Well, it's nice to meet you all. Can I go now?
What do you want to do?
Sit here.
You want a cookie? They have some awesome beignets.
No, I'm just looking at all these hostile faces.
The only one on parole is this guy at the end over here. But, I checked his ankle monitor. He's all right.
Where are the axe murderers?
There we go. They're in the back.
Serial killers? Okay. So why are we here?
These people think you're amazing.
Well,
obviously.
They're good judges of character.
And they'd like to ask you some questions to start out with.
Oh, questions.
Yeah, no.
What if I don't know the answer?
Just make it up like you always do.
Just fake it, right?
Right.
Like I always do.
Absolutely.
Now, and what is this? No, this is unfair. These people have nothing to eat, and I'm going to sit here and feed
I'll do this magic trick.
I want you to
So what's this?
everybody in.
What's this? You don't see it.
See what?
So there's plenty for them. They have some already. I just want you to try.
My problem is I don't hear as well as I used to, so if anybody says a question, he will repeat it to me. Some things I hear, but because you'll be amazed, somebody may whisper something in the back seat there saying, this guy is dull as dishwater. I'll hear that. Anyway, go ahead. I'm leaving this in your more than capable hands.
All right, so who's got a question? Yes, sir.
Do you plan on doing any more manga after Hero Man?
I did one.
Do you plan on doing any more manga after Hero Man?
No. That one I was asked to do, and I did it. But it's too difficult doing manga, because I give them one story, and when they draw it and write it, it comes out a different story, and it has my name on it. I don't know what the hell Hero Man is. I've read the book, I don't recognize it, it's not what I had written. So, however, I'll do anything for $1 if they ask me. But I'm not volunteering.
Okay, another question. Just raise your hand, I'll pick you out. Yes, sir, top hat in the back, steampunk.
Did you expect in the 60s, when you were creating these characters for us, that they'd last and grow more popular every year?
That one I missed.
Did you think the characters you were creating in the 60s would have the longevity that they've had?
No. See, I give very interesting answers. No, I had no idea. I just hoped that the books would sell at least for a little while so I'd keep my job and be able to pay the rent. But to think that, I don't know, 50 years later or whatever it is, I'm not good at math, I'd be sitting talking about them. I had another depressing thought. What if you say next question and nobody raises their hand?
I have each seat plugged into a zapper. They'll ask some questions.
So even if you don't want to know, ask anyway, because otherwise we're just sitting here.
Yes, ma'am, in the back.
What is your most favorite childhood memory?
Favorite what?
Childhood memory.
Wow, I have so many. One was the day that my parents didn't have much money, but one special birthday, they put their money together and they bought me a two-wheeled bike. And I gotta tell you, that bike, we never had a car, but with that bike, I was able to drive to other neighborhoods. We lived up in the Bronx. I was able to drive down to Manhattan. And oh man, I think getting that bike was the greatest thing for me.
That's awesome, good question.
A two-wheeler, I might. I wasn't driving a three-wheeler.
Yes, sir.
And with Louisiana's film tax incentive credit, do you think it's a perfect opportunity to make a Gambit movie?
Do I think it's...
With Louisiana's film, the things they do to motivate the film industry, do you think it's time to do a Gambit movie?
Gambit is very popular, and the chances are they will do a Gambit movie. The big problem Marvel and Disney are having is there aren't enough dates to show all the movies that they want to do. I mean, they want to do follow-ups to all the movies they've already done. At the same time, they want to do new ones for the Black Panther, for Doctor Strange, for the Inhumans, for Deadpool, for the one you mentioned, I've already forgotten it. And for so many different characters. But there aren't enough show dates. You know, when will they play them? They can't have one movie after another. They got to give the public time to absorb one.
Right.
They want to do more Iron Man and Fantastic Four. They want to try to make Daredevil popular again. They want to do more Hulk. They want to do the Avengers again and Captain America. Wow, I mean, they've got such a slate. But sooner or later, they'll get around to whichever the hell one you mentioned.
Choose Spider for Spider-Man, how do you know?
Well, if I'm gonna call him Spider-Man, I can't choose him. No, it hasn't worked. I wanted to get a character who had the ability to crawl on walls. Because, you know, when you do superheroes, the one biggest thing you have to do is dream up an interesting power, and they were all taken. We had a guy who could fly, could burst into flame, a girl who was invisible, on and on. There was no power left. So I figured, what if somebody could stick to walls like an insect? So then I tried to think of a name. Insect Man. Didn't sound dramatic. Mosquito Man. Yeah, on and on I went. And then I got to Spider-Man. It sounded scary and dramatic and corny, which I love. So we became Spider-Man, and if you don't like the name Spider-Man, I'm sorry, I'll change it.
All right. Yes, sir, in the back.
In the latest Spider-Man movie, they didn't have with great power comes great responsibility. Why?
I heard that.
All
My
right.
hearing is coming back. The latest Spider-Man movie, why didn't it have the phrase, with great power comes great responsibility? I don't know.
I mean,
I didn't write it, and I had nothing to do with the script. I thought it should have had it also.
So did I.
But maybe they felt everybody knows it by now, it's just repeating it, I don't know.
Well, when an 11-year-old says, "Where's it at?"
And see, that part I didn't hear.
It's home.
When an 11-year-old asks, you know, hey, where's the phrase with
You're
great power?
kidding.
Yeah.
Really?
My son.
Somebody asked, a child asked about it?
Yeah.
Wow, wait till I tell them back in March. Wow,
Yes, sir.
I'm glad to hear that.
First, I want to say thank you for creating a great love in my life.
Boy, you speak fast. What,
Thank you for creating the great love of his life.
what was that?
One of my great loves, comic books.
Comic books.
Oh, well, I didn't create comic books.
Well-
I wish I could take credit for that. But thank you.
I want to know how you came up with the civilian names for your characters.
With the civilian name for what?
How did you come up with civilian names for your character? Peter Parker,
Oh.
Steve Rogers.
Well, I had to call him something. And I have the worst memory in the world, as you may have gathered a minute ago by not remembering that character's name. To make it easy for me, I felt if I give the character the same first letter in his first name as his last name, that would give me a clue. Like if I could remember Peter, I knew his last name would begin with a P also, so that would be a clue. It might be Parker. Reed Richards, and on and on. I had so many characters like that. So that helped my memory a little bit. In fact, my memory is so bad, I forgot what the question was.
You answered it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Stan, what's it like to have had such a positive impact on so many generations of youth and people in general?
What's it like?
What's it like to have such a positive impact on so many generations of people? You've influenced so many people in a positive way. How does that feel?
Well, I don't think about it much. When somebody mentions it, it feels real good, of course. I'm glad you think it's positive. No, it's a great feeling, actually. As I say, it's nothing I walk around thinking about. I don't walk around saying, boy, I had some positive influence over the world. But if somebody, again, mentions it like that, I'm very flattered, and it's wonderful to hear.
You dropped a big pebble in the pond.
But
You dropped a big pebble in the pond. What you did had reverberations.
nobody ever said that before that way. Thank you. Thank you.
And you'll notice I do tend to ad-lib some of your questions. If I get the intent wrong, shut the hell up. Yes, let me do Dream, American Dream, and then you. I'm a nerd.
If you could go back in time and give your 21-year-old self one piece of advice, what would it be?
If you could go back in time to give your 21-year-old self some advice, what would it be?
Go into another business. Believe it or not, I wanted to be an actor. So now I end up with cameos. I mean, Laurence Olivier got real roles. Marlon Brando, I get cameos. But I think it's just as well, because if I tried to act, Brad Pitt would be so jealous. He wouldn't know what to do with himself. Go back in time when I was 21 years old, what advice would I give myself?
Yes, sir.
I guess try to figure how I could get ownership of the characters. But in those days, nobody ever even thought of that, because all you wanted to do was have a steady job that would pay you a salary so you wouldn't be kicked out of your apartment. And just having a job was good. It never occurred to me or to any of the guys to say, hey, to the publisher, I made this thing up, how about giving me a piece of it? No, that's wrong. One guy thought of that, one smart guy, Bob Kane. He got some ownership in Batman. And Will Eisner got some ownership in a character he had created called the Spirit. And that was all. Nobody else in the field ever even thought of that. So if I were a 21-year-old, I might have, if I had you to guide me, I should have thought of that.
Awesome. Good question. I like that. Yes, ma'am.
Where did you come up with the term Excelsior?
Where did you come up with Excelsior?
Long story.
We have time.
I used to do a column called Stan's Soapbox, and I wrote a lot of little messages, and I answered fan mail. And for some reason, I made up little expressions like, wherever you go, whatever you do, hang loose, or face front, or keep the faith, or whatever the hell I wrote. Whatever expression, or enough said, whatever expression I used, little by little, I saw them cropping up in DC magazines, in competitive magazines. So I said, I want to find some expression I can use that they won't copy, because they won't even know what it means. So I remembered the word Excelsior from, it's an old English saying, which means upward and onward to greater glory. It's a great word. And I found out that it was also on the coat of arms of the state of New York, the word Excelsior. So I tried that, and I was right. They didn't know how to spell it, they didn't know what it meant. I've kept it all to myself all these years, and that's how it happened.
That's good. Good question. Yes.
Hey, how about ever saying a good answer? You always say a good question. Sometime a good answer wouldn't hurt. I have feelings too.
It goes without saying that all your answers are exactly as they should be.
It's like pulling teeth.
Yes.
How was it when you got to work on your own comic for the first time?
How was it when you got to work on your own comic for the first time?
Which were my own?
The first comic you worked on.
What was the first comic you worked on that was like yours, your baby?
I guess the Fantastic Four, because that was the one where I decided I was going to try a different type of a comic. Up until then, I was just doing the comics that my publisher wanted me to do. All that he wanted was a lot of action, a lot of running around and fighting, and he said, don't give me too much dialogue. Our readers don't care about dialogue. Don't worry about characterization. Just a lot of action. They like to see action. And that's what I did for a number of years. And I got sick of it. And I decided to quit. And just before I was going to quit, my publisher had found out that DC Comics, which in those days was called National Comics. Oh, there's a story about that too, remind me about the name National Comics.
Yes, sir.
So they had a book called The Justice League, and my publisher found out that that was selling very well. So he came to me and he said, Stan, how about coming up with a group of superheroes like the Justice League? Instead of just trying to do one, let's do a group. I said, okay. And that's when I decided I wanted to quit, because I knew whatever I came up with, you wouldn't like it, and the hell with it. And my wife said, well, why don't you just do one the way you would like to do it? The worst that'll happen, he'll fire you, but you want to quit anyway, and at least you'll get it out of your system. So I did the Fantastic Four, which was probably the first book of its type where there were no secret identities. They knew who they were, everybody knew who they were. And there was a teenager that was the Human Torch, Johnny Storm. But he wasn't a sidekick. He had a superpower himself, and he didn't want to be a superhero. He wanted to drive his Chevy Corvette and go out with girls. And I tried to make it as realistic as possible. But I didn't get fired because the book sold so well. And then after that, I did the others, and I tried to keep more in the same vein. And the rest is history. What did I ask you to remind me about?
But first, I need to tell you, that was an awesome answer. Was that a great answer? You wanted to talk about National Comics.
Oh, yeah. So after our superheroes started selling so well, our books were called, they weren't called Marvel, they were called something else. Began with A, I forgot the name. But anyway, whatever the books were called, I said, you know, we ought to change our name because we're now publishing different kinds of books. Because we now had the X-Men, the Hulk, Spider-Man, I said, let's get a great name for our company. And I came up with the name Marvel, which had been the name of the first book that my publisher had published in the 30s. He called it Marvel Mystery Comics, and then he dropped that name. So I said, let's call our company Marvel, because I love advertising. And I felt I could come up with so many phrases like, make mine Marvel, Marvel marches on, welcome to the Marvel age of comics, and things like that. So we changed the name to Marvel. Then National Comics, which had Superman and Batman, and copied everything we did. Because there were 8 million photos of my wife all over that. Nothing of me, because I was the guy taking the photos.